Aloha and welcome to our forms of communication video. And the goals for this video are to identify and give examples of social behaviors. We'll give some examples of animal communications. We'll show how communications can work together. And finally, we'll give an example of an advanced communication system. So when we're talking about animal communication, we're talking about several social behaviors that fit into this realm. And three examples here that we want to talk about real quickly. The first is aggressive behavior. And we see that with our polar bears here. And they could be fighting for territory or competing for resources. But it's an aggressive, all out, you're showing who's the boss, kind of a dominance type of thing going on there. We talked earlier about courtship behaviors, and we can see a nice example down here with our male peacock here displaying his tail. And what that does is that's trying to get a mate. Some birds will do it with song, some do it with coloration. We can see all different kinds of courtship behaviors. And then the third type is this cooperative behavior where the individual works towards the benefit of the goal, not for the individual itself. And one of the really good examples of that would be the flocking of birds or the schooling of fish, where it helps get through the medium. So when they fly, it breaks up the air a little bit easier, so it's easier for the rest of the birds. Or when they're swimming, it breaks through the water a little bit and creates an easier way for them to go, but also it's a good deterrence against predation. So we can see how this communication in animals, this ability for them to talk to one another and work together or work against one another, all of these behaviors kind of work out that way. And that's what we're talking about when we say animal communication. Now, when animals communicate, they send out signals, and these signals can be for different things. And we have a couple examples here that we'll go through. We saw the courtship one. That's pretty basic. We can understand that. We also have food calls, and it's kind of funny we call it a food call, but an example we'll use is our bee or our wasp's dance, which kind of shows where the food is. So when the bee returns to the hive, it'll find the central location and it'll start doing this little dance. And as it does this little dance, it'll kind of go around in a circle first and let everybody know, hey, look, I'm getting ready to dance. And then it'll go around in a circle and kind of wiggle its way here and then come around and wiggle its way here and come around and wiggle its way here. And what it's doing is it's sending a clear message to the rest of the animals in the beehive that that's where the food is, so that he can communicate effectively where we can go out and find more food. Now, we also have alarm calls, and we can see our alarm call down here, which lets you know that something's there. Some danger is occurring. There's a predator in the area. We need to take cover, and that's a way that you can protect the entire population that way. And another one that they talk about briefly in the lessons is metacommunication. Metacommunication kind of lets you know that, hey, what's going to happen isn't exactly what you think it is. And the good example here we can see with our puppies playing is the puppies will sit there and they'll wag their tails with each other and they'll kind of show a playful face, and then they start playing a little more aggressively. In the wild, they would be practicing their aggressive behaviors if they had to fight for territories, and that kind of lingers over. That's an innate behavior that lingers over. But what they do is they first say, hey, I'm wagging my tail, we're just going to play, we're not doing this for real. And it's this meta communication allows, it's a little bit more complex, but it allows them to work on the innate behaviors if they needed to in nature, but without the pure aggressive nature behind it. Okay, sometimes we have multiple signals working together. In the lessons, I'll go over a couple examples. I want to talk to you about them here. The first is we have this red spot here on our seagull. And what our seagull does is that red spot, when he comes back to the nest and the babies see that, they'll open up their mouth because they know now it's time to feed. And we can see how these different signals together work towards the benefit of propagating this species, keeping them going on, because now we have a signal for the baby to know it's time to eat. Now there's another type of signals that are out there. These are chemical signals called pheromones. And pheromones in animals are generally linked to courtship. The females will send out a scent and that attracts the males. The males will come in and then they'll compete for the female's attention. But plants can do it the same way, where they will attract their insects to them, and their insects are coming for the sake of pollination for the plant. So they'll come in here, they'll get pollen from one flower and take it to another one, and that's how the plants are able to reproduce. Now, some communication in animals can be quite advanced. One of the examples they like to talk about is the vervet monkey. And the vervet monkey actually has the ability to send out a signal when a predator comes in. So it warns the entire colony that there's something bad coming. But what makes it unique is they have multiple signals, and the signals mean something else. So if one of them sees a jaguar, it'll send out the vervet jaguar signal. And what that does is that will send the vervets up into the trees for safety. Now, if they're out there and they see, let's say, a predatory bird like an eagle out here, they will also give a signal, but this signal is going to be a little different. And instead of them climbing the trees and becoming food, they'll hide under the trees, and that'll allow them to move that way. And then finally, if it's a snake or some other predator, then what it'll do is it'll cause a different behavior, but what would work best to avoid the snake. So what we're seeing is these vervets have the ability to see these different predators, and they have a separate behavior for each one, and they have a separate call for each one. So it's kind of an advanced system of communication that we're seeing there. Okay, that's it for this video. As always, good luck with the questions in your assignments, and I will see you in the next video.